If you've ever taught an English learner and wondered, why aren't they getting it? This video is for you. I'm Jose Torres. I am the writer and creator of I Want to Learn English. And this is my YouTube channel, I Want to Teach English. And today I'm breaking down the most common mistakes even well meaning teachers make when working with multilingual learners and how we could do better starting right now. Now, before I get into the 10 biggest mistakes that teachers make when working with English learners, I want to stop right here for our sponsor, Dubby.
This video is powered by Dubby, the clean energy drink made for focus, stamina, and zero crashes. Whether you're gaming, working, or creating, Dubby helps you stay sharp without the slump. Grab your tub, mix it up, and feel the difference. Use the promo code JVTorres at checkout for 10% off at dubby.gg. That's DUBBY.gg. Stay energized, stay focused, stay in the game with Dubby.
Now, I love this product. It's really a motivator for me, and I think as teachers, we really need to be a little bit more health conscious, and that's not necessarily just dealing with diet, but also being more physically active, whether that's going to a gym or going to the park and running laps or walking or whatever it is, that physical activity that you can do, you should do. If you need that little extra jolt like I do, Dubby's a great product to get. Make sure you use our promo code JVTorres for a discount. All right, so let's get into the 10 mistakes, okay? I'm going to start with the very first one, and I think this is probably one of the most important ones, and that is speaking too fast or without significant pauses. Now, I get it. We're all, teaching, and we're in our rhythm, and we're passionate, and it's kind of hard to slow down the pace. But when you're working with English learners, they need certain processing time, right? So pausing and chunking the speech and using visuals makes comprehension a lot more digestible, if you catch my drift. All right, mistake number 2 is equating silence with the lack of understanding. This is a big mistake that I think teachers make, and I've been guilty of it myself, that just because a student is sitting there looking at you when you're asking them a direct question and there's like this blank stare, that doesn't mean that they don't understand. They may be processing the language, or they're maybe a little bit unsure how to respond, because in the same way that we have to be conscious on how we slow down our speech, they have to be conscious on how they're going to speak. And so that process takes a minute. Mistake number 3 is using idioms and slang without real clarification. Now, they're getting used to the whole American experience or the culture experience. I think a lot of times people forget that idioms are ingrained in the culture that it is derived from. And all that context is cultural based. And if a student is new to the country, they may not be that familiar yet with all the culture. So you have to take those things into consideration. Mistake number 4, ignoring the power of phonics. Phonics isn't just for little kids. If you're working with middle school, if you work with high schoolers, I work a lot with adults, and phonics is key, very, very key, especially for the lower proficiency level students. From this explicit sound symbol mapping, it builds decoding skills, and it fuels writing fluency. It's teaching spelling, and ultimately it's teaching reading. So the phonics is not just, ABC 1, 2, 3. I think people have this conception of it, but it's a misconception. Phonics is very much at the forefront, especially for lower proficiency level students. Mistake number 5, not scaffolding writing enough. So if you're asking a beginner, for example, write a paragraph without support is like asking someone to cook without a recipe, right? So maybe they have literacy skills in their L1. We can work with students like that because they understand the structure already. Having sentence frames and word banks and shared writing. Mistake number 6 is overemphasizing grammar at the expense of voice. Now, grammar matters. I'm not suggesting that it doesn't, but multilingual learners, they need to know their stories and opinions, and those ideas that they have in their minds, they matter as well. And I'll tell you why, because if you're teaching a story a story timeline, for example, the beginning, middle, end, for example, if a student is, if they're putting together their own narrative, then they already understand the structure from their own story. They know how their own tale of themselves, tell where it begins, where the middle of that story is, and where the story resolves, because it's their own story. It could be something that happened to them, and their where they coming from. It could be something that happened to them last week or over the weekend or whatever. But their story, their narratives, already have that structure. So it's just a matter of them identifying what those structures are. Mistake number 7 is not valuing home languages. Now, so let them brainstorm in their L1. I encourage my students to go ahead and write it in their first language, if it's Spanish or whatever. And then we'll translate those and compare, the English version versus their version in their first language. And we'll discover is that language transfer is part of the learning process. It's not cheating. I don't think it's cheating. I don't believe it's cheating. I don't think anybody in this field believes that it's cheating. Mistake number 8 is assuming a one-size-fits-all curriculum works. Okay, I don't personally and professionally believe that it's conducive a lot to multilingual learners, especially the ones at the lower proficiency levels. Many of these curriculums are designed for native English speakers. Let's not kid ourselves here. They're designed for English speaking students. So multilingual learners, English learners, they need modified text. They need to be able to have differentiated text. They need to have visual supports. They need to have a differentiated pacing, like we discussed earlier about the slowing down of the presentation of it. Mistake number 9 is forgetting the social emotional side. I think English learners often face culture shock. They experience isolation and the pressure to assimilate. So building a classroom that feels safe and celebratory of their identity is essential. So mistake number 10 is underestimating the power of writing. So writing isn't just an output, okay? It's how learners process language. It's how they build the grammar. It's how they find their voice. So make writing a daily part of your class. Even short, structured tasks matter. Essentially, writing is the culmination of everything before it. The reading, the spelling, and ultimately the comprehension of the language itself. I mean, this is the ultimate goal that we have for our students, right? So don't ever underestimate the power of writing. It is something that we have to do, even if it's just a few words here and there, even if it's, the least that they could do, but make sure that they do it. Okay, so here's the truth. We're all learning, right? We're all learning. I've made mistakes too, but the more we slow down, the more we reflect and adjust, the more our English learners thrive. That's just the bottom line. They don't need perfection. They just need the intention, right? So if this video helped you rethink your practice, consider subscribing, sharing this video with others. Make sure you hit that like button as well. And I would love to hear your thoughts. So drop your comments in the comment section below, and let's keep this thing going. Until next time, God bless.